Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back once again to For Art's Sake. That talented young gentleman you just saw calls himself a new vaudevillian. He combines magic, mime, storytelling, juggling, contortions, and other odd skills he talks about to provide unique theater. His name, Michael Menace. Michael, what is a new vaudevillian as opposed to an old vaudevillian?
Well, new vaudeville is almost a marketing term. It's a category of work where people who haven't fit into dance or theater, people who are evolving their own material, have been labeled by the media as new vaudevillians. And someone came up with the term and just sort of stuck. And I think that with my work, since it's original and doesn't really fit into a lot of other categories, I've taken on to label myself a new vaudevillian.
Also, there isn't vaudeville anymore.
Yes, that's true. There isn't.
Even on television, you don't have the variety shows that once gave young performers a start.
Yeah, a lot of the vaudeville houses have closed down, which is kind of unfortunate because part of what new vaudeville, I think, is about is scaling down to intimate audiences, intimate spaces, and usually a lot of the circus skills that I use are usually seen in a huge auditorium, and something's lost in that. So although it's less financially beneficial, scaling down, there's a quality of something there, intimate.
Do you think the trend might go back? Like so many things, we're going back again.
Yes, I think it's possibly, but I think it'll come through, especially with the electronic media, it'll be somewhat different. But I think intimacy is something that people are looking for.
All right, now we saw a piece of on you doing the juggler bit. How do you go about developing a piece like that?
The juggling is something I've been doing. I've been juggling for 10 years. That's one of the first things that got me interested in performing was juggling. The aesthetic value of it is what really got me involved in it. And
go ahead.
I'm very interested in movement and choreography, certain architecture involved.
It also looks extremely complicated, is it?
Yes,
Yes,
there's layering of practicing that I'm doing here. A move like that took me about a year to learn.
I was just going to say, how much rehearsal time does that take you?
I rehearse every day for juggling.
How many hours?
It takes fine tuning for the juggling. Now, I used to, at one point, up to 10 hours a day. Now I'm down to, half hour, for the juggling. Then I have a lot of other skills that I rehearse too. So.
Do you have a warm-up period? I just haven't think of this. When you're performing, that you go in early to a theater, and such as a dancer, and first they warm up the body, but do you have to do the fingers and then the body? And
yeah, I usually do the body. First. I like to be the first one there and the last one to leave, because it takes, especially this kind of performing, takes a lot of meticulous work, because I'm doing everything. I need to know the script, I need to know the choreography, the blocking. Usually I sometimes run my own lights and sounds.
Well, all right, so is that one of the odd skills that we talked about in the beginning?
Yes, well, see, usually what I do is I explore just different, I'll explore an effect or costuming or a lighting effect or a magic prop, and then I explore it and just see what comes to mind. A piece that I think will close the show with Puberty, something which really came through exploration, exploring the properties of something, and then hooking it into something which is true about life.
All right, let's go on to your contortions, all right? Now, you have to have an unusually supple body to be able to do the work that you do. Right or wrong?
Yeah. Well, that comes from stretching and working with the body is
I
mostly,
noticed that. I'm watching you stretching.
The body is mostly water. It's just that the muscles can atrophy and get stiff. So with working out, you can develop flexibility, and it's just putting in the time and getting the control.
The women who are watching this are probably dying over how slim you are. Do you diet? Do you do it?
No,
Yes.
I do watch myself. You know, I find performing and traveling around, people offer you all sorts of goodies. You know, and it's more. But my weight has remained the same for the last 5, 6 years.
Well, it seems to me you put out such a tremendous amount of adrenaline that you probably wouldn't put on weight, right?
Yeah, I burn it off nervous energy in performing and practicing.
These are so beautiful. They really, really are. And you have such keen enjoyment of yourself when you're doing them. Like you're totally involved in what you're doing. So it's really quite an acting piece as well as all the other.
I'm really using the body here as a prop, like a juggling prop. I'm exploring what the body, what the possibilities of the body are. And as a matter of fact, that's what this section is called, possibilities. You know, slapstick, just odds and ends put together. And I get into some of the contortions now. Good, I'm glad they're showing this. Good. Good.
That is definitely a tough one. This is not for anyone watching to attempt. It was wonderful. That is an absolute delight. Do you enjoy doing that one?
Yeah, I like that kind of performing. It's people really enjoy that kind of craziness, and once I have the skills, it's fairly easy to perform. And enjoyable.
Do you think audiences enjoy more comedy in your performing, or do they enjoy the pieces that have pathos in them? I remember watching Red Skelton. He used to do some beautiful work. Now I don't know whether you've ever seen any of his work, have you? Because it's kind of long before your time a bit. I hate to say this, Michael, but if you get a chance, do watch it. He does it of an old man watching a parade that at first is funny, and by the time he keeps straightening up as the flag comes by, you know, you have tears in your eyes.
Yeah, yeah. That's I think combining comedy and drama is exceptional. That's I think that's preferred, and I think that most audiences today are very much, you know, make me laugh. You know, I want to see comedy, and I think that's kind of unfortunate. I'd like to do things that are dramatic, and if you don't, I can get away with it commercially if I hook it in with comedy, but sometimes it's very limiting because there's things, you know, just aesthetically pleasing things to perform.
How many of your pieces are on the more serious side?
Well, I have several that are I don't know, serious, but they're dramatic pieces.
Right,
they have a dramatic
yes,
plot,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and yeah, there are themes that are concerned about you know, nature and child abuse, even things like that. I do a piece on the Jersey Devil, which is a verbal storytelling piece.
How did you ever get into the one, I believe you call it boxes, or you work with a lot of different type of boxes? What is the name for that one? I know we have it.
The box routine, it's a just kind of a vaudeville routine. I call it Some Boxes, and it's just exploring exploring what can be done with some boxes.
Are they lightweight? I've often
They're
wondered.
light, but there's, you know, this is an actual juggling maneuver. They're not taped together or anything.
How long does it take you to put together something like this?
It really depends. Some of my sketches I've put together rather quickly. Other ones have taken years, and I'm still working on a number of them.
You had a gorgeous backdrop that night, too. The harbor lights.
Yeah, this was done on the barge near the Brooklyn Bridge.
Right. Beautiful place. That was fun. Did you enjoy working to that audience that night?
Yes, it was nice. It was because it was a barge. There was this rocking back and forth was
Yes.
a little interesting. While you're juggling, that you're
I thought of you that night because there was, and when a boat would go by, that barge would actually move back and forth like
Yes, it
this.
would.
And I wondered whether you were having any problems. How did you compensate for that up there on stage?
Most of the problems, it wasn't so much. I work a lot with. I work a lot off the floor, and I work with sight lines and stuff like that. So when I get a performance like that, I'm thinking, boy, well, how am I going to adjust this or adjust that? That kind of thing's going through my mind. So the rocking wasn't too bad, but usually when I perform, I like to have a space that's more of a dance space. Some of my mentors have performed, the All Comedians. I've studied with Bob Berkey, Michael Motion, and they've done stuff like Lincoln Center and Brooklyn Academy of Music, spaces like that, regular theater spaces. And so it's legitimate now. 5 years ago, New Vaudeville was something that wasn't supposed to be on the main stage, so it's exciting.
What triggered this all off? Your mime, your juggling, did you always want to be a performer? Did you see it when you were a youngster and say, gee, this was for me?
I got involved when I was in high school. I started juggling, and at the time it was kind of absurd that you could put juggling on stage and perform with juggling. It just, at that time in my community, it was kind of shut off, and no one thought that I should take that seriously. And I thought it was great. I thought there was a beauty and an intensity in it, and it should be put on stage. So as I went through my college education, I started picking up dance classes, theater classes, mime classes, and it just one thing leading to the other. I'm here today. So it's been a step-by-step process.
It's interesting because you're not overly an extrovert person
That's true.
to talk to. Now, when you get out on stage, you become an entirely different person.
Do I?
Yes, you do. And you really relate with the audiences. And I have found that a lot with performers, that they're not necessarily living room, quote, performers.
Yeah, some performers, there's this, it seems like most of the work that I do, there's a sort of a market pressure to be a personality that's kind of like, I don't know, Joe Piscopo or something, And it's, a lot of stand-up comedy is very big, and it's people are sort of, they want some sort of amiable type of character. Most of the stuff that I do is, it's entertainment, but there's a strong art influence coming in there.
Right.
And sometimes what the market has to offer right now is pretty limited compared to what I'd like to do. So I just remain poor and perform in the spaces that I prefer.
Well, it's always difficult, I think, to a performer, being artistic and working commercially, because sometimes the two do not meld into one another.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're lucky and sometimes not, which leads me into the next thing that we were talking about earlier. Now, I know you get a great reception from your audiences because I've been in them, but we were saying that audiences are not large in size unless you have a big name such as Marcel Marceau or
Yeah, especially
Arnell and Shields or something like this.
Especially around this area, around New Jersey. Most of it's just, maybe the word is demographics, maybe I'm using that incorrectly, and logistics, is that most spaces in New Jersey are like 2,000-seat auditoriums. How are you going to involve your art, how are you going to get it, so that there's like a huge gap in the process of achieving high-quality art or entertainment. So that the audiences, it becomes difficult to produce, getting people there, within a reasonable budget. And that is usually the biggest problem. And I think the other problem is just historically, all the talent has kind of been sucked out of New Jersey into the cities or different places abroad.
Except I think it's coming back into the city. I mean, back into New Jersey again. I think we're getting back the great artists. I mean, besides the show, I'm also a presenter, as we know. And there are a tremendous amount of talented young people who want to work in New Jersey.
Definitely they want to work, yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of those have gone into New York and have come back to Jersey again to be booked out.
Yeah.
And I think the problem, my feeling would be the problem is more in marketing. than it is in anything else. It's a marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe all the performers ought to get together and figure out some dynamite marketing strategy because it really does cost money.
Yeah. I've done a lot of networking in the state and getting together with artists and working on workshops and scene studies and things that just to get the information going as to what's available, what's not available. And it's I've noticed that it's still tough. It's just tough because of the what you have to do during the whole week. You know, if you're an artist, you have so much to do, and it's difficult to get people together and network and have a community of artists because the state is it's you know, it's a little too big, and you know.
Now, I know you just won the '87 fellowship from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, and it's for a new project. Tell me a little bit about this new project. It's a
yeah, last year, 1987, I was awarded the first year they offered a category of funding, which is called interdisciplinary art, which is combining mime with costuming or with soundtracks or with, and I tend to do all those things. So I was one of the first ones awarded this funding, and that was for 1987. So I was involved in producing my work through that support.
well, you have some props with you,
I do
don't
have a
you?
prop with me,
Yes.
yes, I do.
All right. So what is this new project? Don't keep us all in suspense.
This is the idea behind this was to develop a mask. I was always interested in mask theater, and I hadn't done anything, and so my idea was to develop a mask which I could change the expression on the mask rather than being stuck with one facial expression. And so this is what I came up with.
All right.
And
I can't wait to see it.
I can demonstrate. This took me about 2 months to build. So.
It looks like a magician's thing, you know, they put the knives in.
So I will now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I thought for a minute you were dialing CBS. Have you had a chance to use this yet?
Yes, I have.
You have? Oh, I thought maybe we had a premiere here. That is wonderful. But I can see what you mean by it took you a long time to develop that.
Yes, that was a lot of engineering skills to get that to work. And you know, with theater, you have to be very meticulous because if something goes wrong, you're live on the spot.
There you are.
You know? So,
all right. What about this alternate route theater that I've been reading so much about that you're involved with?
yes, well, the basic idea behind that is the performers' alternate routes. You know, people doing things that are a little bit unusual. And some of my colleagues, we got together and decided to just do a little networking. And what we've been looking for over the last couple of years is a space in which we can get together and hold workshops and performances and teach classes and that kind of thing. And it looks like maybe I'll be doing that at the Watchung Arts Center. It's an intimate space. It's they're interested in having things go on, so it's fairly easy to find, and we're interested in developing an audience for this kind of theater.
If someone were interested in putting something like this on, how would they reach you?
They can reach me at my home phone number. No, they can reach me through the Watchung Art Center in Watchung. 543-7905. I'm available.
For all types of wonderful performances, right? I was going to ask you before, and you've kind of answered it, but maybe you can talk a little more on it. Your early mentor in the business.
Yeah, I've been influenced and inspired by a number of people. Probably the most inspiring is a man who I've studied with a number of times, Tony Montanaro, who's fabulous. If you're an audience person, you should definitely see his performance. If you're an actor or mime, he's fantastic to study with. And he's teaching a workshop in Hawaii in March.
I'd love to go,
But,
yes.
for the most part, he's in Maine and the Northeast. So he's been very inspiring to me. And then there's a lot of good performers out there in the field who have broken a lot of ground. Abner the Eccentric, who's a clown, Bob Berkey, who's a clown actor, Michael Motion, who's an extraordinary juggler, Bill Irwin, Flying Karamazov Brothers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's some famous people out there now in the field. I can remember when the Flying Karamazov Brothers played at Pax Amicus in Bud Lake 5 years ago, and people were saying, like, jugglers, why would I want to go see a juggler? You know, so it's amazing. It's really has changed.
Mm-hmm.
The whole field has really opened up and changed over the last few years.
There's a very funny comedian, too, and for the life of me, I can't think of his name now,
Michael Davis?
who includes it in
Yeah.
his act. And it's very different. And
Yeah.
again, it's brought it back again. That's what I'm saying. The old becomes the new again. Michael, what does your mother and dad think of all this, or your family? Do they enjoy your performing? Were they against you going in it?
For the most part, they enjoy the performing. I think that it's more like the behind-the-scenes work, you know, the turning a house into a theater, you know, with all the construction and everything that goes on. That can be tough. But once they realized that I could get out there and make money and actually do this legitimately, then they were pretty much on my side.
Do they come to all your performances?
A great deal of them, yes.
Applaud very, very hard.
Yes.
You have an appearance coming up.
Yes, and it's kind of, I think, a breakthrough as far as what I've been doing, because I haven't performed too much in the city. And this is going to be at Symphony Space, which is a pretty reputable theater, with, I think, about 20 other mimes scheduled for the weekend of June 4th. So it should be really good, a 900-seat auditorium. So it should be an interesting show.
Are you going to work out all new material for that?
No, probably I will be performing the best of my repertoire, and then I'll be involved in other sketches, other material that will be specially put together for this event.
You spoke before, just before we go off, and we do have to close up soon, but you spoke before about it being a lonely kind of life.
Yeah, it is a tough, because it differs from regular theater where you're working with a company. I'm working pretty much alone. You know, I'm in a studio working on my own material. I'm on the phone, you know, working primarily alone. And then it's a very unusual psychological thing that you have to adjust to, because you're going from being completely on your own to suddenly being with people, being out there in front of people, then going back to working alone. So it's a high contrast.
Right.
And it can be mentally pretty tough.
Michael, I want to get this last piece in, and it is called Puberty. So I want to thank you now, and I want to thank all my viewers for joining us, and I hope you've had a good time. And I don't want you to touch that dial, because we have some marvelous, marvelous footage of Michael doing his last piece called Puberty. It speaks for itself.
Thanks, Dolly.